In this video, I'm going to read two poems from my collection, Photofit, which is right here, and both of those poems relate to memory, as does the title of the collection. Growing up in the 1980s in England, you would sometimes see the TV news and perhaps the report of a crime that had taken place. And on the TV would appear an image of the suspect's face. Of course, it wasn't an actual photograph of the suspect because they hadn't tracked down that person yet, but it was an image created from a description by a witness or a victim of a crime. And initially that would have been an artist's drawing. That was then superseded by photographic technology, and the police would use this kind of composite system where they would build a composite image from various photographs of different noses and eyes and eyebrows and chins and cheekbones and hairlines and beards, and they would put all this together according to the witness description to build this image. These images, which were always seemed to be, as I remember, always in black and white, they never really looked like real photographs, and yet there must have been some accuracy because this was a very successful system that the police used for a long time. That was then superseded by something called e-fit, electronic fit, which was the same kind of principle but more accurate description or image based on the description from witnesses, but this time using more advanced electronic technology. Ultimately, where we are today is at a place where those descriptions are now put into a computer, and what is created is an extremely realistic 3D image of a suspect's face. But back in the 1980s, it was the Photofit, which was the latest technology. And it really struck me that when we construct a memory, or when we go back to the memory of something, what we're doing is constructing a kind of composite picture drawn from maybe various kind of sensory data that our brains hold of that experience. Also, memory can be fallible, we know that, but it's surprisingly durable when it relates to memory of trauma, and a lot of the poems in this collection focus on that. So the first poem I'm going to read is a poem called Altadena. Altadena, of course, was in the news recently because, unfortunately, it was one of the cities that was pretty much destroyed by the fires here in Los Angeles. It's also my former neighborhood. I lived in the city of Altadena for 6 years. I moved away for a long time. And this is about going back to Altadena before the fires, but returning and trying to compare the memory of what is there with the actual reality. So, here we go. Altadena. Before the trial, we drove to Altadena. How long had it been? 10 years? All that time, the street of deodar cedars, their dry and dusty scent had lived in us, and at the top of Mariposa, the library too, in its distinctive mid-century design, the texture of its cinder walls, and the rear entrance we used, with the greening bronze of tree and nesting owls, and those two lozenges of wood that form the handles of the doors, monolith of memory, almost there, but several steps removed, and I'd forgotten the gully that crosses the street into the parking lot. Together, though, we built a composite of truth and found the past sintered from those fragments, just as parakeets flocked to a nearby tree and brought the living branches of the cedar, more or less as it had stood those years without us looking, into view. The second poem I'm going to read is called Boardwalk. I also lived in Santa Monica for a short time, and there is a famous boardwalk that runs along the seafront. And again, this poem is really rooted in memory and inspired by the kind of confessionalist poetry of Sharon Olds. Boardwalk. When we lived in Santa Monica, I took the bike one day down to the boardwalk and rode to Malibu. Or was it Venice? Listening to a program on the radio about memory. The professor admitting hers was not always the most popular expert testimony in court because she stated facts about the fallibility of recollections. At least, that's how I recall it. I couldn't tell you her name if I tried, only that she said there is no such thing as an original memory, No master copy locked inside a vault to which we've simply lost the key. Rather, each time we go back to past events, we construct them anew, and this imprecise reframing of truth that once existed is altered slightly every time. That's why, she said, memories that we don't know are there, deep down and almost out of air, but holding on somehow, occasionally break the surface and gasp to life with such clarity. Those are closer to the truth, she said, not having been duplicated countless times. Undiminished, they are sharp imprints of that original. These days, doctors have the tech to zap bad memories altogether, never to metastasize or branch off into thought. Now there's a thought. Cycling back, I wondered how much it really mattered that I had sworn in court the curtains in that room were orange when, in fact, they were blue, or that I thought the boy who watched us from his top right bunk of the dorm was, in fact, on the top left. There's another part to the story, but now I think on it, that could have been a different episode entirely. Later, riding home, I stopped to use the public restrooms at Ratna Beach, and after, stood there in full view of the lifeguard station. I forget the number, but a rescue was underway, and they were pulling something deep inside me from the sea. Thanks for watching, everyone, and if you enjoyed this video, please do click the like button and the subscribe button, and I'm going to put a link in the description below to where you can buy a copy of this collection, Photofit, and also you can read more about some of those stronger thematic elements in the collection. So thanks very much, and I'll be back soon with more poetry content.